A wife works like a maid for her husband. If she doesn't listen to him, they might get divorced. I'm really mad, I told someone. My husband Tom took my special credit card and spent lots of money without asking me. He knew I was busy with work. They're on a vacation overseas. I feel really disrespected. I didn't answer Tom's phone call. Instead, I started planning how to get back at him. I'm Holly Smith. I used to be a famous actress in the USA. People all over the world loved me, and I even made it big in Hollywood. I was famous for many years. But then I got married to Tom, who used to be my manager and helper. He took care of everything for me, from my health to my personal life. He's still helping me with my fashion stores now. I quit acting 10 years ago when I was 21. When I decided to stop acting while I was still really famous, it caused a big stir in the media. Fans were coming to my house, and I was getting tons of letters begging me to keep going. Despite all the gossip and rumors, Tom and I got married happily, and everyone was supportive. Just before I quit acting, I started my own fashion brand. Now, Tom works for me in finance, and I focus on running the business, making sure our models do well. Everything seemed great, but lately Tom's been acting strange. He looks tired and defeated all the time at home. Tom, what's going on? You don't seem yourself. Is something wrong at work? I knew he didn't like talking about his problems, so I always checked in on him. It could be tiring, but he always helped me with my problems too, so I didn't mind. Even though I often felt annoyed, I always valued Tom's efforts. I'm tired of always being in the background, doing what you want, he suddenly said, surprising me. What's going on? You've never said anything like this before. I responded. Tom would sometimes vent his frustrations at me, but it was because he was stressed from work. He acted tough at his job, so maybe he had nowhere else to let off steam. I remembered how I used to snap at him when I was an actress, so I could empathize with how he felt. Still, his words caught me off guard, and I felt my voice trembling as I replied. I've been holding back. You're always busy, and I'm just here supporting you. Even though Tom earned more than most people, he was still just an employee in our company. I made more money, but I never thought it mattered who earned more in a marriage. His words surprised me. Even when you're home, you're always focused on work and hardly pay attention to me. When we go shopping, you just buy whatever you want. How do you think that makes me feel? Tom looked dissatisfied, his lips pressed together like a frustrated child. Honestly, his words irritated me. Most of our household expenses came from my income. His salary was his to spend as he pleased. As I reminded him, it was my way of thanking him for all his support and hard work. There were times when Tom supported me financially, especially when we didn't have much money. I wanted to thank him for all the times he put his own needs aside for me, even until I retired. It hurt to hear him sound ungrateful. The things I buy come from the savings I manage. If anything, I'm the one making sacrifices, I thought angrily. Holly, you have too much free time. I want more time off and to travel leisurely. The salary's good since I joined your company, but I never have time, he complained. When I left acting and started my own business, Tom said he'd keep managing actors. But when my business did well, he wanted to work with me. If I work with you, Holly, you won't be lonely. I want to be there for you, he said. I wanted to spend time with him, so I let him join. I never asked him to, so why was he acting like this? Wasn't our life good enough for him? Wasn't he being too selfish? As I thought this, Tom asked for time off to celebrate his parents' 60th anniversary. Can I have 2 weeks off to take them on a trip to Japan? He asked. They've never been, and I want to show them the tasty food and beautiful sights, he said. I braced myself for his response, but his request surprised me, leaving me feeling uneasy. 2 weeks off seemed like a simple request he could easily make at work without causing any trouble. Our company was fair, and taking time off wasn't usually a problem. Yet here he was, making a big deal about it and negotiating directly with me. Something felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint what. I tried to push aside my irritation and replied calmly, I'm fine with that, but it won't work this year. I have important events lined up, like a fashion show, and preparing for the Paris collection. Maybe we can plan it for next year when my schedule is more flexible. I want to be there for my in-laws' celebration, but work is really busy this year. I suggested a different date, but Tom refused with a smile. It's okay, we'll celebrate with my family. I just want some quality family time, he said. His words stung, suggesting that I was a burden. So, what do you think? Don't I deserve some time off too? Tom often spoke without thinking, and while it was one of his flaws, I accepted him as my partner, flaws and all. But I couldn't ignore how his words hurt me, even if he didn't mean it. Why does he talk to me like this? Doesn't he care about me? As I pondered, Tom interrupted. Hey, Holly, are you listening to me? I owe a lot to Tom's parents. Even though I couldn't visit them often because of work, Tom's parents always treated me like their own daughter and praised my work. We're so lucky to have such a wonderful daughter, his mother said when I married into the family, and his father celebrated our marriage with joy. It was their 60th anniversary celebration, and I understood their desire to celebrate it this year. But how could I agree happily after being spoken to like that? It doesn't matter to me, take 1 week or 2, do as you like. I couldn't hide my anger and let it show. This seemed to upset Tom. He got up, visibly upset, and left the room without a word. We had been sleeping in separate bedrooms due to work, and from that day until his trip, we didn't see each other at all. Is that really true? Isn't your husband being too harsh? My secretary, noticing my unusual behavior the day Tom left for his trip, pressed me for details. She's an exceptional talent and has been supporting me since I started managing the company. As women, we often see eye to eye, and sometimes she's even more reliable than my husband. She's quick-witted yet caring, always there to support me when I'm down or about to make a mistake. I cherish her like family. She admires me like a real sister, and I often confide in her. Her honest and mature advice, beyond her years, is always valuable. And this time too, she noticed something was off about me and kindly showed concern. I hesitated at first about opening up, but realized keeping it in could affect my work. I decided to tell her everything that happened up to today. She furrowed her brow in anger. If I were you, I'd have given him a piece of my mind. You've been too soft on your husband, boss. I get that you love him, but you can't let him walk all over you. Her blunt advice, making me wonder who's older, hit me hard. In an environment where everyone tends to hold back from telling me things, she's the only one who treats me as an equal. I really appreciate her directness and the ease we have in our conversations. Being in a higher position often requires humility and restraint, so having someone who can speak honestly with me like she does is incredibly valuable. You're right. What should I do? I asked. Can't you call him? Why not talk after work today? Don't worry about ruining his trip. If things keep going like this, you might end up getting divorced. She urged me, sounding like an older sister, leaving me with no choice but to agree. As she suggested, I plan to call him right after work. He's in Japan, so there's a significant time difference of about 15 hours from the US. For example, if it's 5:00 p.m. here, it's 8:00 a.m. there, which should be around breakfast time. I had sent him an email earlier to let him know I needed to talk, so he should be expecting my call. I tried calling, hoping he would answer, but there was no response. Maybe he's still busy with everyone. I'll try again later. Despite calling every 30 minutes, there was still no answer. Worried, I decided to contact my mother-in-law to check on him. Hello, Holly, you must be tired. I'm sorry we went on this trip without you. We wanted you to come, but Tom insisted otherwise, she said. I knew Tom's mother used to be strict, but now she's much more caring and always worries about my busy schedule. It's okay. We're swamped at the company this year, so I couldn't make it. I'll make it up to you next year, all right? I assured her. Oh, don't worry about it. Just having this wonderful trip as a gift from you is more than enough for us. Her kind words surprised me. Wait, a gift? I asked, confused. She seemed surprised by my question, and then explained that Tom told them the trip was paid for by me since I couldn't join. I was shocked to hear this news. What? I exclaimed over the phone. My mother-in-law realized I didn't know anything about it from my reaction and quickly clarified. Isn't this the trip wholly arranged? Tom paid for everything with Holly's card, so I thought it was from you. The trip included Tom's parents and his sister's family, 5 people in total. The flight alone cost about $1,000 per person minimum, not to mention other expenses, easily exceeding $10,000. It was outrageous to spend such a large amount without consulting me, especially since I usually cover living expenses. Tom doesn't gamble or smoke, so his salary should be intact. He definitely earns enough to afford such expenses, yet he didn't. With him not answering my calls, my anger started to boil. My mother-in-law noticed my distress and spoke with concern. Holly, are you all right? We'll reimburse every cent. Tom insisted on covering everything. which seemed strange to us. My husband and I decided we'll repay you later. We miss you and plan to visit soon. This trip might have been a mistake. With these words, my mother-in-law tried to reassure me. You're not to blame. It's also your 6th-day celebration, so please use that money for your enjoyment. I'll make sure Tom pays you back, but could you tell me more about how the trip was planned? I'm curious about what Tom was thinking. It dawned on me that this trip must have been meticulously planned months ago, and Tom was using me without my knowledge. In that moment, suspicions about him started to creep in. Then my mother-in-law shared a shocking revelation. The trip was actually suggested by Tom's sister and her husband. To my surprise, it was Tom's sister and her husband, who had always criticized me, who initiated the trip. Tom's brother-in-law, an executive at my rival company, he looked down on me for being a female CEO because of his pride. Tom never stood up to his sister. The sight of Tom being so attentive to someone other than himself, especially M, must have caught my sister-in-law's attention, even though she's always had Tom under her thumb. I couldn't stand the fact that she could be offended by just a slightly friendly gesture from Tom. With their strong rivalry, my sister-in-law and her husband disliked me, and I tried my best to avoid dealing with them as much as possible. The couple, always competitive and disliking me, planned this trip, possibly convincing Tom to pick a fight and exclude me. They waited for the right moment to bring Tom along as a source of money. I'm sorry, I didn't know anything. Tom told me you were busy and asked us not to contact you directly. If my unsuspecting in-laws and I were to communicate, it would reveal the plan, potentially causing problems in our marriage. To prevent this, Tom had to restrict his parents' actions in advance. For my in-laws, who didn't understand how busy I was, Tom's advice was final. They decided to follow his instructions and express their gratitude when they returned. Holly, did you give Tom a card or something? He was paying with a black card I've never seen before, my father-in-law asked, sounding hurried as if he had been eavesdropping. He brought up something that had been on my mind the moment he mentioned a black card. I checked my safe. The black card he referred to was the company's crucial black card, accessible only by Tom and me, who knew the safe's password. I never imagined Tom would stoop to embezzlement, but the card that should have been there was missing. With Tom overseeing finance, it was easy for him to manipulate records and misuse company funds. When I realized this, my anger reached its peak, and I shared the story with my in-laws. They must have been shocked. My mother-in-law turned pale and panicked, saying, "What should we do? Are we involved in this embezzlement? We'll return with Tom immediately. We're just as guilty as he is, even if unknowingly. We'll face the consequences once we're back." My father-in-law, a man of strong responsibility, said. I shook my head, rejecting his words. This was all orchestrated by Tom's sister's family and Tom himself. My in-laws are not to blame. They were just manipulated by Tom. They're not at fault, but I can't let them off the hook. We don't need punishment, but could you help me with something? I've turned a blind eye to Tom's actions until now, and that's my fault. He's taking advantage of me, thinking he can get away with just an apology. This isn't just a marital issue, it's a company issue. We need to teach him a lesson. All right, we'll do whatever we can to help. So we began plotting a revenge plan. I was surprised by my own cunning, but my love for Tom had died. Now only hatred and anger surged through me. Initially, my in-laws were hesitant about this drastic plan, but they also felt responsible for Tom as his parents, and eventually they resolved to support me. As parents, they agreed to be my allies. Amidst this discussion, Tom unexpectedly called. I ended the call with my in-laws and answered Tom's. What's up? We're enjoying a family-only trip. So what's this important talk about? Tom's sarcastic tone only fueled my irritation. You took your time calling. Did you go a little wild, huh? No way. Just having drinks at a nearby bar with Mom and Dad. This confirmed he was lying. I had just spoken to his parents, and there was no noise of a bar in the background. Besides, they had no reason to lie to me. His words erased all the time and trust we had built, and my feelings for him cooled entirely. Oh, really? By the way, Tom, you haven't been tampering with the company's expenses, have you? His demeanor instantly changed at my unexpected question. What's that all about? His usually light-hearted tone turned dead serious. Was this his true nature? Seeing his attitude shift as if he now saw me as an enemy, I faced him with equal firmness. Just checking since there will be an audit at the company soon. Are you suspecting me? His defensive reaction betrayed his guilt. I couldn't help but chuckle at his feeble response. What's the matter? I was just asking. And now you're talking about suspicion. Have you done something wrong? No, anyway, the house better not be a mess when I get back, okay? Realizing he was only making himself look more suspicious, he quickly changed the subject. His actions only served to raise more suspicion. I almost found his foolishness impressive. Who knows? I've been busy with work too. Cut me some slack. I hate returning to a dirty house full of bugs. They say a wife is her husband's maid. Disobey and it's divorce. Even our executive says that to his wife. Looks like I might have to do the same, huh? You wouldn't want that, so keep the house clean. I had never seen him get along with the executive. His current words were likely his own thoughts, but aware of his weaker position, he used the third person to express them. His pitiful attempt made me sigh. Sure, I'll keep that in mind. There was no need for further conversation. Tom clearly looked down on me, even resorting to embezzling company funds. Embezzlement is a serious crime, and I could report him to the police. No mercy, even for a spouse. But that alone wouldn't satisfy me. After ending the call with Tom, I immediately made a certain phone call. The next day, while busy preparing for the fashion show, I was bombarded with calls. Of course, it was Tom. I noticed his calls late at night while I was out for a reason, accompanied by my secretary. Luckily, she was driving, so I answered Tom's call. You're late. What have you been doing? His voice was more agitated than I'd ever heard, surprising both my secretary and me, who were listening on speaker. What do you mean? I was working. Did you do something yesterday? Do something like what? Don't play dumb. Tell me the truth. What did you do? Tom was in complete panic, and in the background, I could hear several Japanese men confronting him, along with my sister-in-law and her husband. Sounds noisy. Is everything okay? No, it's just... Tom, who had been blustering, suddenly began to stammer. He realized that admitting anything would put him in a very disadvantageous position. His odd behavior prompted me to reveal what I had done the day before, as it was time to make him taste despair. Too bad, Tom. You were supposed to be having a blast in Japan. But it seems your dream turned into a nightmare overnight. Huh? But it's what you deserve for misusing someone else's money. You did something, didn't you? As he reacted strangely, I disclosed my actions from the previous day. I reached out to the president of the credit card company I had a long-standing relationship with, even though it was after hours. He agreed to assist me immediately. He promptly suspended the company's credit card. When a credit card is misused, the company isn't obligated to pay the store, leaving the store at a loss. However, since Tom had arranged to pay the entire bill at checkout, with the card blocked, he couldn't settle the payment and was now facing interrogation by the hotel receptionists. Tom, Mom, and Dad have already checked out. The taxi I arranged for them has left with them. So there's no one coming to pick you up. My sister-in-law, feeling trapped, bombarded Tom, asking what to do next. Hearing this, Tom panicked even more and directed his anger at me. How could you do this and think it's okay? Are you ready for a divorce? Fine. I'd rather not be married to someone who embezzles company funds. I've already spoken to a lawyer, and we're proceeding with divorce proceedings. What? Tom was visibly shaken by my calm demeanor. I've overlooked so much of your behavior, Tom. There was a time when you supported my work, and I appreciated that. But I've reached my limit. My patience has run out. That can't be. Realizing he was in a dire situation, Tom finally understood my anger and let out a pitiful cry. The receptionist relentlessly demanded payment from Tom and his group, who were now cornered in despair. But none of them could speak Japanese, relying on a guide for communication. Listening to their plight, I suggested switching the call to me. No one there speaks Japanese, right? Let me talk to them for you. You're going to help? Of course. Tom must have thought I had a change of heart. Realizing his mistake, without hesitation, he handed his phone to them. I explained the situation to the receptionist in Japanese, and they quickly understood, seeming quite cooperative. To alleviate their concerns, I also provided them with my contact information, which my secretary noted down. They happily agreed to my proposal. After a brief conversation, they returned the phone to Tom. What happened? Did you sort it out? Yes, I've taken care of it. Now it's up to you guys. Really? You're a lifesaver, Holly. I love you. He then hurried off, apparently called by the receptionists. Clueless, Tom ended the call and followed them. Are you sure about this? It probably won't end well. Exactly. It's perfect for them to experience some hardship. An hour later, as expected, I received a barrage of calls from Tom again. When I answered, Tom's voice was filled with pitiful anguish. Holly, what's happening here? Where are we? Explain yourself and come help us right now. Crying out, he showed me via video call the image of a slum area in Osaka, Japan. The sight was shocking. Tom and his sister's family were stripped of their belongings and in a pitiful state. Caught by those individuals, being taken to what's considered the most dangerous place in Japan was honestly unexpected. When I spoke to the receptionist, he mentioned, I'm a big fan of yours. I'll arrange a harsh punishment, just leave it to me. But I never anticipated it would be this severe. I couldn't help but laugh at the unexpected turn of events. You're lucky to be alive in Japan's most dangerous place. It's quite a miracle. What? Wait, Holly, what's going on? Explain yourself and come help us right now. Since it's a video call, they could probably hear everything clearly. Surrounding Tom and his group were homeless individuals, causing a stir. You folks caused trouble for Holly. Now face the consequences. Time to reflect. My in-laws chimed in, surprising everyone. What's going on? A friend of Holly flew us back on a private jet. We're back in the US and Holly picked us up. We realized you were trying to set Holly up. We told her to do whatever she wants with you guys. As they spoke, the onlookers behind them began confronting Tom's sister and her husband. The homeless folks were ruthless. If you had anything valuable, even women weren't spared. They were shouting while on the video call. In such a dangerous place, it's no wonder they became prime targets. I addressed the crowd in Japanese, telling them loudly that these men had used my card illegally and mistreated me. Every night, I urged them to do whatever they pleased with them. The locals, eager to join in, gladly agreed to make things difficult for them. Suddenly, the call ended, perhaps because someone grabbed the phone. Tom and his group were left in the dangerous neighborhood, terrorized daily and treated like slaves by the locals. Without money to return to the U.S., they were essentially stuck abroad. I confirmed the subsequent events with the hotel reception. Apparently, an acquaintance of the receptionist was a boss in the area and agreed to take care of Tom and his group in exchange for me treating him to some good liquor next time, assuring me not to worry. The deal was made under the condition that they would be protected from life-threatening situations. In return, I agreed to sing at the hotel, something I hadn't done in a long time. Your live performance video was the only one you ever released when you were active. It's still my treasure. As a token of thanks, come stay at our hotel and sing for us. I'll make sure you're treated like a VIP. With the help of the men from the hotel, I successfully got revenge on Tom and his group. I also managed to divorce Tom. I felt rejuvenated and have been enjoying life with my in-laws. Tom's sister and her husband were fired for unexcused absences from work. Their phones were taken by the locals, leaving them without a means to contact anyone. My in-laws explained the situation well, so it didn't become a police matter, and no one seemed to care about them. Thus, my ties with Tom were completely severed. Since then, I've been focusing on work and living a happy life. Occasionally, I check on Tom and his group through the receptionist. They're still enduring harsh conditions, but I don't feel any sympathy for them. I asked for their lives to be spared, and now I'm relishing my life to the fullest.